Alright, here we go. Alright, back in here. Let me just get the new posts up. What am I missing? I'm missing something. Oh, I'm missing the fucking Discord, duh. No, don't share my fucking screen. Turn my camera on. Stop it. Oh my god, that's so fucking annoying. Back on there. Back on X. Need the new link.
Oh, there is an official report from Trump now.
Is there?
The war is over.
Through social or?
Someone else posted a video of it on X.
Alright, hold on to that so we can pull it up here. We'll play the first video first, just since that's the order it went. YouTube. This one is Rumble. Oh shit. If you guys can hear us right now, we are getting back on air. I forgot that I still had the audio on. My power went out, and so we got kicked off. I'm just getting the new links out right now, and we'll be back on. Yeah, this is all jacked up. almost there, guys.
I've got some breaking news. I guess experts are now saying that white boy summer is starting early this year.
Really?
Let's go.
That is definitely some sort of breaking news. Last one here. Well, this just jacks everything up. Alright, I guess we'll make that work because we need to get rolling. But I deleted that one. Okay. Well. This one's live. That should be good. Okay. All right. We're gonna have to make that work. Sorry about that, guys. Like I said, my my power went out, and we saved it, and then it went out a second time, or glitched a second time, or whatever, and it was gone. There was nothing I could do to save it, so then I had to bring up everything. Thank you for your patience, and don't worry, we're not gonna get back into the Sneeko BS because I don't care that much. We're gonna move right on to the breaking news. So very similar to the last time we had breaking news, we were finding it really hard to find any confirmation on this. However, we did find, or I should say Austin found, a video that did give us confirmation of where the rumor came from, at least. And we're going to play that real quick.
I thought I lost you again.
No, I'm still here. Are we good?
Oh, yes, you're good.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was like, I noticed my frame rate dropped right then, too. So I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, just for a second there, you froze, but I could still hear you. But your camera was frozen, so...
Yeah, I think my poor computer's trying to catch up to all of this. All right, so this is the video that you found originally about the breaking news with the Iran war. Get this pulled up. There we go.
I just left the president. It was a great interview. He said a lot about the economy, about the Iran war, about NATO. One thing that I'll leave you with, I said to him, Mr. President, you keep talking about the war like was. I said, is it over? He said, it's over. Join the whole interview tomorrow on Mornings with Maria, Fox Business, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. I'll see you then. I just left the president.
There you go. She said she just left the president, just got done speaking with President Trump, and he said that the Iran war is over. Now, you said you have found some further information on this?
Yes.
All right, let's see what we have there. What we got for us? Before I get into my speculation here.
I haven't watched this yet, so
We will keep that in mind.
there's no sound.
There is no sound. Why is there no sound?
Video just must not have sound, so sorry everyone.
So then
I
most
did
likely
just find this though.
that's probably not a real thing then, huh?
This is a clip from the interview, so
All right, let's try that.
I had to divert because if I didn't do that, right now you would have Iran with a nuclear weapon. And if they had a nuclear weapon, you would be calling everybody over there, sir. And you don't want to do that.
Well, you keep saying was. Is this war over?
I think it's close to over, yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over. You know what? If I pulled up stakes right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild that country. And we're not finished. We'll see what happens. I think.
Okay, well, it's not over if he said we're not
I
finished.
had to divert.
yeah. This women. I
Wow.
swear.
So she just blatantly lied. And so we blatantly lied.
I don't
Sorry
know,
about that.
obviously what this must just be like some AI thing and someone was trying to cash in on the,
It looks like an old video.
algorithm.
Yeah, it looks like an old video that they took and just took the audio out and posted, what they wanted. Well, that was a crushing disappointment, I guess. Still, I mean, he says basically that the war is nearly over, I guess, which is still good news, but not quite what we heard. In that case, we will go with the, I do actually have some update as to where we are currently with the blockade and all that. I wasn't sure that it was going to be relevant since we apparently had that breaking news, but she clearly misrepresented entirely what the president actually said. Which, could also be said as blatantly lied. Let me get to this here.
Did you hear that Russia agreed to take all of Iran's enriched uranium?
Russia did. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I guess it's better than China? Maybe?
Yes. Better than Iran having it.
I will, yeah,
Better than
I'll
Iran
agree
having
that
it.
it's better than Iran having it. Sorry about the double up there. All right. Where is the stupid link? There it is. Okay.
Supposedly the strait is well open again. So
Well, according to NBC News, the U.S. military has turned back 6 ships in the first 24 hours of the Iranian port blockade. There's a little bit of not misinformation, but contradicting information out there, as you just pointed out, essentially, unintentionally, on whether or not we've actually closed the strait, or we're only, not letting certain ships through, or what exactly is going on here. Let's play this clip from NBC, see if it fills us in at all. I'm not going to hold my breath, but we'll try it.
Traders rallied in Tehran tonight to denounce President Trump's partial blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran calls the move an act of piracy. This is what Iranians are angry about. The U.S. military has an armada of warships with thousands of troops on board, positioned just outside the Strait of Hormuz, ready to strike any vessel attempting to dock at or depart from the Iranian mainland. The strategy in Hormuz, a vital artery for about 20% of the world.
Oh, good. Just what I wanted, an ad. Sorry, guys. My ad blocker apparently has not.
World's oil appears similar to the one Trump has used against alleged drug traffickers from Venezuela and Colombia. The U.S. military destroying their boats without warning. According to U.S. Central Command, the blockade in Hormuz only applies to Iranian ships and those loading and unloading in Iran. The goal is
There
to
you go.
pressure Iran and stop it from exporting oil, its main export, much of it going to Asia. And so far, it appears to be working. A marine tracking website showed the Strait today effectively empty, with at least 2 ships approaching Hormuz and then seeming to think the better of it, making sharp U-turns.
Right now we have a blockade. They're doing no business.
President Trump imposed the partial blockade after peace talks with Iran, led by Vice President Vance, ended without a deal this weekend. When the partial blockade went into effect at 10 this morning, oil prices jumped and the U.S. stock market dropped. But markets rallied after President Trump suggested a new round of negotiations with Iran may be coming.
We've been called this morning by the right people, the appropriate people, and they want to work a deal.
U.S. intelligence suggests that China could soon provide Iran with new air defense systems. The partial blockade President Trump imposed today directly impacts China, which normally buys a lot of Iranian oil. President Trump is scheduled to visit China next month.
You would think China would be telling them to cave. Cave, because they need them to, and they're obviously not going to protect them. Not to mention, providing them with new air defenses at this point, first of all, they're never going to get it into the country without us knowing about it. Second of all, it's just extremely silly because it's just giving us the opportunity to go up against those air defense systems. And even if they did happen to improve them enough that they were able to spot U.S. aircraft now, even though they weren't before, it's just going to allow us to figure out how they're doing that and get around it again. So I don't think that's true. I think that's probably, leftist dreaming rather than actual reality, because it just doesn't make, it's just not a sensible move by China, and China, they're not idiots. How do you feel about these negotiations? Because apparently we're back to negotiating. By the way, if you're just tuning in, it turns out that the woman that said that Trump said directly to her that the war is over, she lied. She blatantly lied. We got the original clip, allegedly. Maybe it's AI, but it looks legit, where he said it's near over, not actually over. So anyway, sorry, Austin. What do you think about these negotiations?
I think they're going well.
So you're in favor of them?
Yeah.
I'm not.
We're good. Everything's fine.
You don't negotiate with losers. When
Well,
you
it's
lose
not
a
real
war,
negotiation. It's like
it is though, because they're negotiating with the regime.
That they're, doing something, but
Right, I get that Trump's not going to give them really anything they want, but we're negotiating with the regime still, which means the regime's still going to be in power, and which is not good for the Iranian people, and they're just going to say what Trump wants to hear. They'll probably keep their nose clean until Trump's out of office, because they know damn well he'll, if he finds out otherwise, they'll get bombed again. And then they'll go right back to doing it once there's a leftist in office again.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in favor of doing this war for the sake of a regime change, but since we are doing the war, we might as well at least get rid of the radical Islamists. It kind of seems like one of the bottom or one of the core goals here, and so I don't understand why we're negotiating with them at all. Unless the negotiations are, you guys get out of the country or we kill you all. Of course, I don't know because it's behind closed doors. But Trump did say that all of the lists that were supposedly going around online of the various negotiation, points or whatever, the terms were all bullshit and none of them were real. So we don't know what's actually going on as far as that's concerned. According to NBC just now, no ships are getting through the blockade. According to the U.S. military and Donald Trump, we are allowing any ship through that isn't going to Iran. So, you know, either way, Texas is flooded with ships getting oil now, so seems like a win-win there. I don't know. Oil went back down. One way or another, the news seems like it's good, but I still say don't be surprised if we go back to bombing them, because I think really the only thing the Iranians are trying to do right now is buy time, because they know this war is not popular in the United States. And they feel like the longer they go, the more pressure Trump is going to feel to give in to things. And so I think all they are trying to do is stall and buy time. What they fail to understand, though, at this point is Donald Trump doesn't feel pressure. Donald Trump, his approval rating could go down to 0. He's still going to do what he's going to do. It's one of the reasons we like him. In a sense. So I don't know. I mean, on one hand, I'm not in favor of the fact we're negotiating with him right now. On the other hand, I don't know what else. You know, I guess it's hard to say whether it's a good thing or bad thing, because there's nothing that's been agreed upon. So I guess that's what I'm
I guess
alluding
so,
to.
yeah. I mean,
well, that's really what it is. I mean, you know, nothing's been agreed upon, so what is there to be upset about, I guess? I also have update here from X that says Vice President J.D. Vance led marathon U.S.-Iran negotiations in Islamabad that ended without agreement. Iran ejected demands to remove all nuclear material and renounce weapons deployment. Trump responded Sunday by ordering a blockade of Iranian vessels and those paying Tehran tolls, sparring non-Iranian traffic but halting Iran's oil exports, which could cost $13 billion a month to Iran. That's significant for a country like Iran. Oil prices surged past $100 per barrel amid fears they've actually gone back down now, which handles 20% of the global oil trade, while China vowed to keep its ships moving, and its allies like Saudi Arabia called for resume talks, and allies like Saudi Arabia. There's nothing China can do, so they can say whatever they want. There's nothing they can do. Is there anything else you think that's relevant on this?
I don't think so.
I do have Ursula von der Leyen. Is that?
I've been trying to look for information, but my X is like broken. It's just only showing me posts I've already seen over and over again, so I don't know what's going on.
Maybe they lost their power too.
Mm-hmm.
This is the head of the EU, or somebody in the EU. We don't really give a shit over here, but apparently they have absolutely no plan at all on how to deal with this. They've sent ships, but they've kind of denied that they've sent ships. They're still not there, so they haven't made any difference yet. But yeah.
Is how can we reduce the demand? Because of course the least expensive energy is the energy that is not used. We should reduce demand while fully respecting the free choice of consumers. So we are looking at energy efficiency levels such as renovation of buildings or the renewal of equipment in industrial operations. These are some measures, but there are also other measures that we will present, or will be the core of the presentation of the communication next week on the table of the leaders. So far is how can we reduce the demand? Because of
they're asking people in the EU to use less oil because they have no plan. Unfortunately, even if the EU were to stop using oil, it's not going to drop the price all that much. People will just make up for it. And they obviously can't stop using it altogether, or their economy grinds to a halt. So, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have all told Trump to fuck off. Wall Street Mav says the Strait of Hormuz is blockaded. Europe's plan. Ursula von der Leyen says the cheapest energy is the one you don't use. Stay home, don't drive, don't use electricity. The EU has no plan and no military to change or do anything, so they are stuck with monitoring the situation. That is correct. A lot of people claiming, too, on X that China has sent strong warnings to the U.S., insisting that they will protect their ships and Iran's oil. No, they haven't. And no, they won't. Because they know damn well they cannot take the U.S. on militarily in a direct conflict, which is why they haven't. If they thought they could, they would have moved on Taiwan the moment they believed they could. They know they can't, and that's why they, send fentanyl through the cartels into the U.S. and send their generals over here to have babies and all these underhanded things that they do. Yeah. I don't know. I guess wait and see. That's really where we are. And no, the war is not over. The reporter that claimed that Trump said that to her just blatantly lied. That's where we're at right now. All right, let's talk about Turning Point real quick. I didn't actually prepare a story on this, but the facts are out there, so we can mention it real fast. Erica Kirk was supposed to be joining Vice President J.D. Vance at a Turning Point event today, and she has had to cancel that because of, quote, very serious threats. That's it. I don't know. First of all, like, what are you guys so angry at Erica Kirk for? I don't understand this. I don't understand where the anger comes from for Erica. I get you guys think she's somehow magically leader of the Jews now, and also, secret Illuminati killed her husband to control the world through master plan with the Jews, but from what I can see, she's just a widow trying to, fill the place of her missing husband as best as possible, but that was never really her job or her place or something that she was doing before, so, I don't know. I try to stay out of all that because it just doesn't, like, I appreciate Turning Point. I appreciate what they do. I don't have any problem with Erica Kirk in particular. I don't think she's secretly being led by the Jews. That's just, if you're going to make claims like that, you have to have proof. If you can provide proof, maybe we could talk. But until that point, it seems to me you guys are just mad at somebody for no reason. I don't know. Either way, it obviously is pretty gross and makes no sense. We played for you yesterday or the day before Samantha Hernandez getting beaten up by or hit by a radical leftist protesting ICE, followed by the radical leftist mom, followed by the radical leftist dad shoving her from behind. And, the left doesn't care.
Never.
They just decided that it's perfectly okay to assault women now as long as they're conservative women, which I guess is, no change in anything, but shouldn't be surprised about it. But that's where it stands. All right. Let's move on to something else here. Do you have anything, or you want me to keep going?
No.
Okay.
I'm still looking to see if there was any more updates, but
all right.
My ex is still being weird. Now it's just showing me the Sabrina. Did you see the Sabrina Carpenter thing?
Sabrina Carpenter. No, I don't think so.
She was doing a concert, and then a Muslim woman did a Muslim chant while she was performing, and she kind of just stopped and, well, here, I'll show you. She made this face. And then told the woman that she didn't like that. And then she goes, well, it's a part of my culture. And now the, she's getting canceled because she told a Muslim woman to stop screaming during her live performance. Wonder if I can find the video for you.
Leftists are just strange people. Yeah, if you can find the video, let us know. Yeah, leftists are strange people. Here's an idea. Regardless of what your religion or sex or sexual preference or whatever, don't fucking shout during people's shit that other people are paying to watch. Performances. Like, it doesn't...
Here we go.
It's never going to be appreciated.
It was at Coachella.
Of course it was. Can you turn it up? Because it's... Your gate's hitting it.
I think I heard someone yodel.
Thank you.
I think I heard someone yodel.
Oh no, she said yodel.
Is that what you're doing? I don't like it.
It's my culture!
That's your culture, is yodeling? Making sure that we're good here.
Yeah, it turns out that's not just a call for celebration, that it's actually some sort of Muslim curse thing. I can't remember exactly what it was. Don't want to misspeak too badly, but yeah.
I've always understood it as what is it called? I can't remember. I'm gonna say something offensive on accident, trying to remember what it's called, but I've always understood it's like a battle cry, or celebration is one way to put it, but it does feel a little like you're minimizing it. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't make it. First of all, not everybody needs to know what the fuck your culture is 24/7. Like, I don't know how somebody doesn't know what that is, but the fact that she didn't know what it is, like, you're interrupting her performance. Just shut up. I get that you were just trying to clap in your own way, but first of all, that's not how we fucking do it in America. We have a culture here. You're in America. Second, not everything's about you. This is just the way that leftists make things about them, right? They go and do something abnormal to draw attention to themselves, and when somebody reacts to it in any way that's even remotely negative, now I'm the victim. Now I get to make this about me.
Even the X on my phone is messing up. I don't know. I guess I went through too many posts too quickly. I don't fucking know what's going on.
I don't know. I'm not. I don't think I'm having any issue. If I am, I didn't notice it. Let's talk about this real fast just to get something going here. This is Abigail Spanberger, the governor of Virginia, who lied and said she was a fiscal conservative and a middle-of-the-road Democrat, and then immediately took the mask off the moment she was elected and started doing every radical progressive thing, just like progressives have done for 100 years, and for whatever reason, some independents were dumb enough to believe it again, Even after Joe Biden did the same thing, even after Kamala Harris did the same thing, even after Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama did the same thing. Ay. So this is her signing Bill HB 965. HB 965 takes away the, what is it called? The Electoral College. And it basically makes your vote in Virginia mean nothing at all. And even if Virginia elects a conservative or a Republican or a fucking Democratic Socialist or a Libertarian, if the national popular vote went to a Democrat, then all the state's electoral votes go to the Democrats. So this is one of the ways that progressives have been trying to subvert the Constitution for the last 2 decades. And they started this plan where they're trying to get every state that they can on board, and all they have to do is get a Democrat governor elected one time, and then they sign this bill, and for whatever reason, Republicans can never fucking undo anything terrible that's been fucking done. That is the most legitimate criticism you can have for Republicans, is the fact that they never fucking undo the shit, let alone do good things. I don't even need you to do the good things yet. Just undo the bad shit when you get into office. Put that aside. What this does is once they get enough states on board, signed on to this pact, to reach 270 electoral votes, and they're fairly close. I think they're 230 or something right now. With Virginia, I'm not sure what that brings it to. I'll look it up here in a second. What this will do is it will mean we will never have anything except a radical progressive president ever again. It will directly violate the Constitution because it will change us from an electoral college system that is meant to equally represent the states, because it doesn't matter what a state's population is. Wyoming is sovereign from fucking California. It doesn't matter that there's 5 people in Wyoming. Wyoming has as much right as California does as a state. That's why, excuse me, in Congress, we have 2 different forms of representation. So, one method is they flood blue states with illegals so that they get more electoral votes and they get more seats in the House. Then they have this pact that when they hit 270, and I think that that's part of what the flooding of illegals was. I think that they realized that another way they could get to 270 electoral votes is by flooding blue states and increasing their electoral count. This is a direct subversion of the Constitution. Theoretically, the Supreme Court would never allow this to happen. They shouldn't. It directly violates the Constitution. But progressives don't give a shit. We are not a democracy. It is not most votes win. That is not how our elections work. It has never been how they work, and for damn good reason. If they're able to get this passed, and it does go to the popular vote, all of a sudden, unless you live in a big city, don't expect to get any of your priorities addressed or any of your concerns addressed. Because why would a politician bother campaigning anywhere except a major city? All they have to do is get the most votes. For all of the talk about how Donald Trump is undermining the Constitution, yet of course we can never specify how, for all of the talk about how he's just expanding the presidential powers and yada, 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 then progressives continue to do shit like this that is a blatant violation of every principle regarding electing a president that this country has ever had. Not a word. And I get it. It doesn't go into effect yet. So you're not worried about it yet. But another, what, 1 state, 2 states, 3 states sign on? We're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you that even if the Supreme Court were to overturn it, they would still get at least one person through. And that one person might be enough to amend the Constitution to overturn the Supreme Court. This is not the will of the people. This is quite literally CEOs and elites changing the rules of the game behind the scene to fuck you, the citizen, while telling you that we're just trying to make sure your voice is heard. Have you heard about this before? This
No.
270 to win or whatever? I think that's what it's called, 270 to win. Or maybe I'm confusing that with the website. Let me see here. To with Virginia joining. All right. Yeah, so this has been around for a long time, but obviously, you know, all of the radical progressive controlled states signed on to it when it first came out, but it wasn't enough to hit 270. So then you only hear about it when they get control of a new state and are able to, you know, pass the legislation quietly. As you notice, there's no mainstream media that is reporting on this today. None. It's called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, or NPVIC, also known as the National Popular Vote Compact. Let's see, across 50 states, yada yada. As of April 13th, 14th, 2026, Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger signed Bill HB 965, making Virginia the 19th jurisdiction, 18 states plus D.C., to enact the compact into law. Virginia brings 13 electoral votes, pushing the total to 222. So that means they need what? 48 more electoral votes? That's it? Yeah, the compact is now 48 electoral votes short of the 270 votes needed to activate. This is the closest the effort has ever gotten. Obviously, Democrat-led states, yada yada, still needs additional states, especially larger or swing states, to reach the threshold. Some bills are pending in other states, but none have crossed the finish line yet. Okay, what states... Or actually, if all states pending pass, would they hit 270? This is one of those things. Like, it's very quiet. It's in the background because no mainstream media will report on it. But if this happens, it will change the entire country. It will change your entire life instantaneously. Your vote will never matter again. Okay, here's the breakdown as mid-April 2028. Enacted, including Virginia, 19 jurisdictions and 18 states with 222 electoral votes. They need 48 more. Pending status typically refers to bills that have passed one legislative chamber, but not both, according to the latest data from National Popular Vote organizations. This includes 6 additional states with a combined 61 electoral votes. So, if the 6 states that are currently pending on this law, meaning it is at least partially passed into law so far, they will surpass 270. Even though several of the states that have signed this into law are not currently controlled by a Democrat governor. So if you are one of those states, you should probably ask, why the fuck is your Republican governor not overturning this? It's one of those things that they're just ignoring it because it doesn't matter right this minute. But once it's passed, it's too fucking late. Because another thing progressives always do is they always try to sneak into their bills that they can't be undone. That if some piece of this is undone, you can't touch anything else. None of which is constitutional either. But they do it. It's funny, Grok says they wouldn't reach the total necessary, but then he says they would reach 283 votes. Let's see. Although he does say in some tallies it's only 267, so they'd be 3 short. I don't know. I mean, I guess all we can do is cross our fingers and hope and pray for now. I mean, that's all conservatives are going to do, so... Or I shouldn't say conservatives, that's all Republicans are going to do, so... I guess just, bite the bullet and hope. I don't know. It's really fucking maddening when you get down to it. And look, that brings me to the main topic for tonight.
All right, well, I'm getting out of here then.
Fine then. I didn't want you to hear the main topic anyway.
I didn't want to hear it anyways.
It wasn't for you.
Yeah.
All right, man. Tell them where they can find you.
MillerTalk.substack.com. MillerTalk_pod on X.
End of list.
All
right. Go follow them on X and subscribe on Substack. MillerTalk.substack.com. Austin, thanks for being with us, man.
Yep.
We'll talk to you soon.
Until next time.
Later, brother. All right. Well, now that he's gone, you got to give me just a second here to get caught up. That power outage at the beginning, cutting us off the air, really screwed me up. But, so here's the deal. The main topic for tonight is this. Is America doomed? What do I mean by that? I mean that no matter what we do, unless we change our core mindset that exists today, and primarily that our younger generations have today, there is no fixing this. There is no constitution strong enough. There is no president strong enough. There is no Supreme Court strong enough. There's nothing that can prevent the destruction of this country from within. All of the other things aside, China aside, the illegal immigration aside, the illegal birth citizenship of foreign adversaries like China aside, direct threats like North Korea, Russia aside, we will not survive ourselves if we don't start learning our own history and correcting. I would say the number of Americans today that have a proper or not proper, accurate assessment of American principles, American history, and the way that our government and our society is supposed to function is at best 20%. And that feels like a very hopeful number. Now, look, there's a problem with spending too much time online because we get disillusioned, right? And because I do this show, I have to spend a lot of time online on social media and stuff in order to promote the show, in order to keep up with the news and what's going on, in order to do all these sorts of things. Fine. But I do have to remind myself sometimes that what I see every day is not necessarily how things are. We all have to. And I hope that that's true. I am naturally an optimistic person. It's why I don't believe, not in climate change, but I don't believe in the doom of climate change. It's why I don't believe in the idea of overgrowth of population or, whatever the fuck, the population bubble. It's why I don't believe in really any doomsday predictions. It's why I generally have a positive outlook that we will always end up better off than we think we're going to. It's why I'm not worried about AI, right? It's why I'm not worried about, and I shouldn't say not worried about, obviously I have my concerns. Obviously, we still have to be on top of these things. We can't just ignore them because we're optimistic about it. But there is a genuine problem right now that continues to grow. And conservatives, you are just as much responsible for this as leftists. Maybe not, it might not be exactly equal, but it's close enough that it doesn't matter. My dad is a very conservative man. My mom is not. Although she really is, she is what I would describe as a traditional liberal, where she today would be called a conservative, even though she's not. And if she understands the policies fully, she's always on the conservative side. She only votes really on the Democrat side so much, I think, because she doesn't pay attention to politics all that much, and it's socially acceptable to vote Democrat. It's not socially acceptable to vote Republican. But my parents did nothing, very little, to teach me about American history, American values and principles, how this country became this country, all of that. It's one of the reasons I do this show, even if only one person were to ever hear it. Because for now, it's what I can do. There's other things, obviously, that I do in my local community and stuff, but as far as trying to reach out further, this is what I can do. Let me give you some examples here, and we'll kind of go through them one by one of exactly what I'm talking about. Bear with me, because this is not going to be... It's going to be hard for me to get through this without too much cussing. Put it that way. Trying to decide which one I want to start with here. Okay, I want to start with this one. Comes from Reddit, no surprise. And it says, why do many Americans seem to have a quote, I'm not paying for your school, healthcare, or welfare mindset. I've noticed that many Americans are resistant to the idea of funding public services such as education, healthcare, or social welfare, especially through taxation. It's like there's this strong cultural belief that everyone should fully fend for themselves and helping others is somehow optional or even unfair. Somehow optional. I'm curious about why this mindset is so common. Is it rooted in history, politics, economics, or something else in American culture? Why does personal responsibility seem to outweigh collective support in so many people's view? When you read that, it's almost impossible to hear it and not just be confused. Why does personal responsibility seem to outweigh collective support? So you think other people taking care of you is more important than you being responsible for yourself? That's what this person is saying. And that's truly what a European mindset is, and it's why Europe is dying. It's a big part of it. What's concerning to me is not the fact that Europeans don't understand this. What's concerning to me is the fact that, A, there's a significant portion of Americans that agree with this sentiment, and B, there's a significant portion of Americans that don't understand, don't know how to respond to this. Even if they might feel that personal responsibility is obviously more important, they don't know why. They don't know how that's related to this country being incredibly more successful than Europe. The average American's income is 4 times that of Europe, yet the cost of living in Europe is about the same or higher. For example, you're probably paying $3.50 or so a gallon for fuel right now. They're paying more like $9 a gallon for fuel right now. So here's the deal. Sorry. Just took this off, but now I'm putting it back on. I gotta keep it chilly in here. Everything gets overheated. Individualism, one of the foundational principles of this country. There's 2 main philosophies, right? Individualism, collectivism. This person is speaking from a collectivist point of view. That you are responsible for taking care of everybody else more than you are responsible for taking care of yourself. The simplest question to ask in response to this is who is more responsible for taking care of you? If it's not you, then who is? The answer you're likely going to get is government. But government is just other taxpayers. That's all it is. It's just somebody that redistributes the wealth and efforts of somebody else to you or to somebody else. So you believe that everyone else is more responsible for taking care of you than you are. If you can't take care of yourself, are you free? How can you be free if you are dependent on everybody else? Freedom is why we believe in personal responsibility first. You literally cannot be free if you are dependent. a lot of people confuse individualism with selfishness. They're not the same thing. In fact, Americans, by the numbers, are undoubtedly the most generous people on the planet, by far. Like, compared to Europeans, it's, I don't remember exactly, but going off the top of my head, it's like at least 3 times the amount of money, not just given to people in our own communities, but given to people overseas that we've never met, don't know, and have no effect on us. And it's not just dollars either. It's also hours, physical labor contributed. And of course, when any country on this planet suffers a natural disaster, whose ships are showing up to help? The U.S. military, the Red Cross, and American NGOs. There are no Australian ships or British ships or Swedish ships or Iranian ships or Saudi Arabian ships showing up when there's a tsunami in Thailand. There's American ships showing up. We literally had to twist the arm of, I don't remember if it was Sweden or Switzerland, in one of America's most embarrassing moments in history under the Joe Biden administration, when we were ran out of baby formula. Because of government overreach, by the way, but I digress. We had to literally twist their arm and force them to help us. One time. If it wasn't for America, Europe likely wouldn't exist. Not because of defeating the Nazis in World War II. I mean, of course that, but not just that. But because Europe had nothing left after we defeated the Nazis in World War II. Who gave them all the money? Who supplied them with all of the materials necessary to rebuild their entire nations? We did. UK was still repaying the money that we gave them until 2006. And by the way, we only made them repay a fraction of what we actually gave. Now, of course, every Euro overlooks these facts when they're talking about how terrible America is. But the fact is, you cannot be free if you are dependent on somebody else. We believe in personal responsibility first because it is a necessity of natural life. When you are born, it is your parents' responsibility to take care of you. But eventually, you're grown. And what age that is exactly is changed throughout the years based on basically our parents' ability to take care of us. The more successful our parents became, the longer it was until we consider ourselves adults. 100 years ago, at 12 years old, you could get married and have a farm of your own because your parents couldn't afford to take care of you. You were an extra mouth to feed, and they still had to feed your younger siblings first. If it's not your job to take care of you, then whose job is it? There is no answer to that question that could possibly have logical reason to it. Not a one. Literally every generation of Americans, until millennials, my generation, they contributed more than they took. They worked their asses off to provide a better future for their children than they did for the life for themselves. They weren't working for a better retirement. They were working to build a better, more successful country for the next generation. All the way back to the founders. We talk about it in the Declaration of Independence. But millennials, we seem to think that because all of our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, all the way back, built all of this stuff so that we could have easier lives and continue to build forward for generations, we're somehow owed this stuff. This stuff somehow magically arrived here and should be equally distributed to us no matter how much we contribute to the cause. Because the fact is, if I am not personally responsible for myself and somebody else is, well, why would I contribute anything? It's your job to take care of me. I mean, it's inherently why kids are narcissistic and selfish, because they've never had to take care of themselves yet. They've always been able to be dependent on somebody. It's also why kids aren't free, why we don't consider them to have full rights until they are 18. Because you cannot be free and be dependent. It doesn't work that way. It's not that I want anybody to have to go without health care. But if I am working to provide you health care and you aren't working to provide me health care, well, this society is going to break down very quickly. But if I get to reap the benefits of my own effort, you reap the benefits of your own effort, and therefore I'm working and I have health care, you're not working and don't have health care, the society is going to be just fine because there's no imbalance there. Because literally the only thing you have to do to get health care is work. Is put in the same amount of effort as everybody else. And I understand there's a small fringe of people that legitimately will never be able to because of schizophrenia or, a debilitating disease or disfigurement or whatever. But that is a very small fraction of the population. And entirely irrelevant to this conversation. We all believe, every single one of us, believes in taking care of those that literally can't take care of themselves. Why do Americans seem to have I'm not paying for school, health care, or welfare mindset? I'm curious why this mindset is so common. Is it rooted in history, politics, economics, or something else in American culture? Why does personal responsibility outweigh collective support in so many people's views? Well, I just said it several times, right? It's freedom. That's why. Because you literally cannot be free and be dependent. It's rooted in our history, our politics, our economics, and our culture. It's rooted in all of it. It is the foundational principle of a free nation. And it's also the natural state of affairs. Take away all nations, all societies, all infrastructure. We're all just animals born into the woods. You think some fucking deer's gonna come along and just take care of you? Of course not. That's absurd. You might say, sure, but once people grew into, from individual families into tribes, the tribe takes care of everybody. Yeah, as long as you're contributing. If you're not, they kick you the fuck out of the tribe because they're not going to feed somebody that's not contributing. Again, there's an exception for the tiny percentage that can't. But then on top of that, sure, the tribe will take care of its own. But they're not going to take care of some random person that isn't part of the tribe. They're probably just going to kill him. I know we'd all like to think, oh, the natives would have welcomed in, a lost person into the tribe, and they would have helped him out. No, they wouldn't. They would have killed him. Same is true anywhere on the planet. Now, in some instances, if they might have seen an advantage for the group in letting that person in, that person was a good hunter, was exceptionally strong warrior, something like that, well, sure, as long as that person is pulling their weight and contributing to the group, they might let them in. It's the natural state of affairs. If you are born into nothing and you just sit around and wait for somebody to take care of you, you're going to die. Personal responsibility is what every animal calls living. It is only because our great-great-great-great-grandparents all the way up to our parents, and I'm not saying our parents are perfect, all right, I'm not saying boomers are the perfect generation. They fucked up in a lot of ways, including not instilling these values in us. But all of those generations up to our parents, because they contributed more than they took and created this wonderful society that could sustain us for a period of time without contribution, we seem to think we're owed it. But the problem is, if all of us just decided we're not going to contribute because we're owed this, it'll all be gone in less than a generation. In fact, we'll all fucking starve in about a year. It's really impossible. They even said in this, and helping others is somehow optional or unfair. Okay. You're not helping others if it's not optional. You're being forced into slavery. If helping others is the government coming along and taking a portion of my effort and giving it to somebody who isn't providing anything, that's not helping others. There's nothing benevolent about that. You didn't choose to help that person. It's the same thing in that there's no benevolence in weakness. If you are too weak to harm somebody else, you're not benevolent for being peaceful. You have no choice. If you are strong enough to harm somebody else and you choose not to, then you can call yourself a peaceful person because you could harm them, but you choose not to. It is a personal choice based on your religion or your principles or whatever. It's the same thing. If you provide for yourself and therefore are able to help another person and choose to, then you have done a good thing. If somebody just takes it from you and gives it to somebody else, you haven't really done anything, have you? And they haven't done anything either, by the way. They've just stolen from you. That's all it is. And what about the person that's willing to receive your stolen money? Are they benevolent? No. Worse than that, though, hopefully I've, I'm sure I've more than hammered that point. I tend to do that. But worse than that Would we go beyond just the principles and we just look at, okay, regardless of principles, what's most effective? It's not effective. Government has never more effectively provided a service than an individual has been able to for themselves. I said earlier, individualism is not equivalent to selfishness. In fact, it equates to the opposite. Individualism is allowing a person to decide for themselves and prioritize for themselves based on their needs. Collectivism is prioritizing an individual's needs based on everyone else's. How's that going to work out? Your needs aren't the same as your neighbor's. Your needs aren't the same as your spouse's or your kids. Again, let's break this down. If we ran a family collectively, okay, so dad brings in all the money, mom does all the caretaking and day-to-day things as far as getting people where they need to go and education and all of that stuff. The kids provide nothing. It works when the kids are younger. But when the kids are adults and they are now consuming equal to the parents, the balance shifts. If we were to take nutrition and collectivize it amongst 2 adults and 2 kids, you're either going to over-provide for the children by basing it on one of the adults, or you're going to under-provide for the adults by basing it on one of the children. If we try and meet somewhere in the middle and just divide everybody evenly, the kids are going to get too much, the adults are going to get too little. Everybody gets screwed. And that is always how collectivism ends up turning out. Everybody gets too little or too much based on their input. Because in the case of the family, 2 adults, 2 children, the kids are inputting nothing, the parents are inputting everything. And so if we just even it out, the kids end up with way too much, even for what they need, let alone what they're putting in. The adults end up with not enough. It doesn't work that way. On an individualist basis, dad brings in the money, mom makes the household decisions, and they individually decide what they need for themselves. Now look, trying to compare the family directly, this was a bad choice because obviously it's a little bit different in the sense that, I have to not just decide for myself, but I have to decide for my children too. What do they need? And then distribute that effectively. But if the children could decide for themselves, as it would be in a society, you'll never get an even balance. It's not possible. And then when you add a third party in there that is taking the money from one and giving it to the other, or taking the food from one and giving it to the other, that third party is also going to take a cut themselves, so now there's even less to go around. And there's a lot of animosity that goes with it. Let me give you, let's move on to the next example here before I risk repeating myself too much, which I recognize I'm starting to do. Give me just a second here to get the next one pulled up, the next example. Sorry, guys, if you missed it, at the beginning of the show today, about 15 minutes into the beginning of the show, my power cut out. We got cut off right in the middle of the stream, so I had to get it all back together, and have been a little discombobulated since that happened, but we are getting it back together here. All right, so let's move to focusing on this problem with millennials and believing that they are entitled to everything that the previous generations have helped create for us without providing anything, right? So one of the biggest news stories in the last week has been the kid in Ontario, California, not Canada, that burned down a Kimberly-Clark warehouse, put several people out of jobs. Remember, the company's going to be fine. They had insurance, but those people that were working those jobs, at best, they'll get unemployment for a little bit, but that unemployment won't be 100% of their paycheck. So they're screwed. But he burned down the place, and his quote was, "All you had to do was pay us a fair wage." We've already proven that on a previous episode, we've already proven that the wage he was making was more than enough to live sustainably where he was. Now, it wasn't a lavish lifestyle by any means, but he could have afforded rent, a car, food, healthcare, and still had a little bit of money left over every month. All of the necessities would have been easily met for the, I think it was $25 an hour. I think it was $25 or $28 an hour he was making. Which sounds like a lot, but remember, it's California, so it's not. But it was certainly enough. Here's another example of this exact same mindset. And on the surface, it sounds very relatable. Wait till I give you the facts, though. God dang it. Hang on, I gotta move these over because Austin's not here. Alright, here we go.
So I just left my WIC appointment crying, and that might sound really insensitive, but I got denied. And I'm just like so tired of living and working and doing this every single day, like, and having nothing. Like, I am on my maternity leave, my husband is unemployed, can't get a job because there's nothing in Arizona, like nothing. We just had a baby.
Ah, shoot. Sorry, guys. There you go.
I applied before, and I made not even a couple dollars too much, and I got denied. A couple dollars too much. And
that would be per hour.
Recently increased the income requirements, and I recently had my baby, and so I reapplied. Do I have time to reapply, go to these appointments? No, but I really need help. Like, desperately need assistance, and I've tried everything. My husband's type 1 diabetic. His insulin is $200 a month, like, it, not even including all his other supplies. I'm having medical problems. I can't even get into the doctor because x-rays and MRIs are $500, let alone a colonoscopy and endoscopy that I need. Like, I can't afford anything. My doctors cancel my appointments. Like, there's just no resources for anyone. Like, I don't have childcare. I don't know how I'm gonna get childcare when I have to work 40 hours a week because I can't even afford to feed my family as is. Can't afford therapy. My family doesn't talk to me. This world is just not meant to be. Like, we need to make change for us, for each other. Please.
Okay. So again, sounds pretty relatable, reasonable. Sounds like a serious struggle. Now, remember, this is a family choice that she is working immediately after having a baby because obviously the boyfriend could be and is choosing not to. The claim, first, let's start with there are no jobs in Arizona for him to take. Let's start with that. There are at 25 results a page, there are over 13 pages just in Arizona state government jobs. Indeed says, and, you know, take this for what it's worth. I don't know how accurate Indeed is in this sort of estimate, but it says there are 138,026 jobs available in the state of Arizona. Let's see, if I look, Arizona, I'm checking another website here. Okay, it won't let me do it by state. I have to put in a radius within 100 miles of Arizona. There we go. Within 100 miles of Arizona, on Arizona Job Connection, azjobconnection.gov, there are 41,092 jobs listed. So there are not no jobs. In fact, it sounds like there are plenty. Hostess, $18 an hour plus tips. Dishwasher, $17 an hour. CAD drafter designer. No salary listed, obviously. Safety representative or officer, $75,000 a year. IT staff, no price listed, or no pay listed. I guess that doesn't matter as much. Senior data center network, patch management specialist, field engineer, data center tech, data communications, software developer, software engineer, site reliability principal, software engineer manager, senior data engineer. Let me try and get out of the software stuff. Lead project control specialist, Scrum manager, whatever that is. Looks like it might be healthcare related. I'm not sure. Remote manager, project manager, mobile device migration project manager. Customs entry writer, inventory solutions specialist, strategic analytics analyst. All right. Anyway, you get the idea. So that part's already elect. So then the next part. We know that she is the sole income provider. We know it's a household of 3, 2 dependents, 1 adult dependent, 1 child dependent, 1 newborn kid. And she doesn't qualify for WIC or food stamps. Well, according to the Arizona WIC website, as a sole income earner with a 3-person household, an adult dependent, and a child dependent, that means she makes at least $50,000 a year. You're not barely scraping by on $50,000 a year. I have lived on far less with a child, with an adult dependent, many times in my life, in a far more expensive cost of living state, Washington, than Arizona. She is not barely scraping by. As you can see, she's driving a fairly new car. We can't say exactly because obviously it's, you know, the angle isn't going to tell us what car it is. I'm sure somebody out there can say exactly what it is, either because they have one or they're just better at identifying cars from obscure photos than me. But it's clearly not old. It looks newer than mine based on the interior. But the point is, $50,000 a year is more than enough to pay for the bare minimum. Now look, I'm not suggesting you're going to live a grandiose lifestyle on $50K a year with 2 of you. And she mentions childcare. Well, what do you need childcare for if your husband is staying at home? Now, if your husband goes back to work, are you telling me that he won't make at least enough to pay for the childcare? Because that's absurd. Childcare doesn't cost $20 an hour. I mean, it can, easily. But generally speaking, it doesn't. As someone who was broke doing the same thing when my son was born, this is absolute nonsense when we start digging into the facts. And something tells me that they probably qualified anyway. Because if Arizona is anything like Washington, and since it is a blue state currently, I'm betting it is. Once you factor in deductibles and stuff, even if she made $50K, she'd still qualify. So either she doesn't know what she's doing, or she's lying. And yeah, at $50K a year with one adult dependent and one child, you're not going to get a new car every 5 years necessarily. Depends on how expensive of a car. You're not going to get a new phone every year, or a new laptop and TVs and all of that. But you'll more than have your needs met. You can certainly buy food and rent. Healthcare would be the next step. I'm assuming it's discounted through your work. Even if not, unless you have, some sort of debilitating condition, as expensive and unfair as healthcare is in this country currently, because of the collectivist policies that we have signed on to, Obamacare, I mean, we're going to get to that in a minute. It is unfairly expensive, unduly expensive. And that cost has been unfairly shifted onto the middle and lower classes. But it's still affordable in the sense that you can literally afford it. It shouldn't have to be as expensive as it is. It wasn't the day before Obamacare took effect. In fact, it was literally a fraction, 1/4 of what it costs today, the day before Obamacare took effect, adjusted for inflation. Why we wouldn't overturn it, I don't know. But beside the point, it is in fact affordable. In fact, if you just pay cash, probably cheaper. So it's this mindset that even though she has to, based on all of the information she gave, which was quite a bit, more than enough money to support herself. She's, 21, 22, 23, maybe 25 at the most? You're not going to own a home yet. You're not going to be able to buy brand new cars yet. You're not going to be able to have the latest iPhone every time a new one comes out yet. That doesn't mean we need to upend our economic system, because you are still richer than literally everybody else in the fucking world. America's poorest 1% are still in the world's top 1%. The problem is the mindset. The idea that, we could just make all these people that have worked their whole lives and therefore have some money put away, I can just make them give me that money and my life can be easier right now. It's not the way the world works. It's certainly not the way this country works. It's not the way a healthy society works. And you can only do that once. And then what? Once you've taken their money, they're all retired. The money's gone once you take it. So then what? Well, then I guess we start over, all being broke, and build again. Or we could take the immense privileges that we all have as Americans. It's not based on your race. It's based on being American. Because of how hard, all of the Americans before us have worked. And we could take that immense privilege and we could contribute to it ourselves. And then our children will be able to work a little bit less hard. Just like we are able to work a little bit less hard than our parents. Our parents, your parents, my parents, they most likely worked hard labor, 40 hours a week, with no vacations, no 401k contributions, at least until later in life, no automatic health insurance until later in life. None of that. You have all that starting out now. Your life is better off than theirs was. The rate of inequality is irrelevant. Your life is better than a poor person's before you. We are all moving up the scale. And actually, wait, never mind. I even want to go down that road right this minute. You only get to redistribute wealth one time. It only works one time, and then it's gone. I think that's the fundamental thing that these people, they don't understand. You can only do it once. Now, you can do it slowly so that it lasts for a couple years, but it's still one time. Once the money's gone, it's gone.
But the reality is,
let's go to healthcare with AOC.
People love to ask this question as though it's a gotcha, but the reality is that
the question is, who is going to pay for it all? I just don't understand how that piece is never discussed.
there's actually a lot of different ways that you can pay for this, but I'll give you one, just as an example. I'm a member of Congress. My salary is public information. I get paid $174,000 a year. Now, I have to maintain apartments in 2 cities. That's a whole separate issue.
You don't
I get paid $174,000 a year. I pay and kick in for my health insurance, and my employer kicks in.
Just so you know, that's $14,500 a month. So anything she's about to say is irrelevant to 90% of us.
For my health insurance to United Healthcare. I $74,000 a year. I pay and kick in for my health insurance, and my employer kicks in for my health insurance to United Healthcare.
Notice how she didn't say how much.
I would much rather that money that goes out of my paycheck to go to Medicare instead of United Healthcare.
Okay. First of all, that's what it does. It goes to United Healthcare because you wanted to provide Medicare for all. We called it Medicaid. We called it the Affordable Care Act. And then CHIPS and all of the other things that were thrown in to that. For the average person, it has quadrupled the price of their health care. Not just their insurance, but their health care. If we factor in how much more the government is paying too, we were promised that the ACA, Obamacare, was only ever going to cost us $1 trillion over the first 10 years. Instead, it cost us $20 trillion, nearly. It was like 19.56 billion, or trillion, I mean. It was almost $20 trillion over that 10-year period. The first 10 years of Obamacare. 2009 to 2019, I think. Or 2010 to 2019, or whatever it is. So 10 times what it was promised to cost. 10 times what we were paying before. On top of the 4 times more you are paying out of pocket. Medicaid is cheap for people over 65 because we borrow so much fucking money to pay for it. We not only are paying 70% of every dollar that the U.S. government takes in revenue from taxes on people, taxes on corporations, tariffs, all of that stuff, we not only are paying 70% of all revenue towards welfare costs total, and then it is almost exclusively healthcare. The cost of the other programs are minuscule in comparison to healthcare. They're still significant compared to everything else, but they're minuscule compared to healthcare. 70% of every dollar, and we have to borrow another about $1.5 trillion on top of that 70%. Just to pay for the ACA. Taking the tiny bit out of your check is not going to make the difference. She knows this. She has access to these numbers like the rest of us.
It would actually, you don't even have to give me a break on it. I'm not even asking for help. It would be cheaper and it would help more people. And the care would be cheaper too. Even just letting people buy Medicare would be a step forward, and would introduce solvency to the system. But here's another thing to think about. This is the thing that people don't think about. Medicare right now covers people 65 and up for the most part, seniors. And seniors, older people, are the most expensive segment of people to insure. It is no shade. If we are all lucky, we will reach that age. But we are already insuring the most expensive population segment in America right now. If you started allowing young people to be covered by Medicare, they make systems solvent because they use it way less, but their proceeds go to helping everybody else. So people often go back to this question of
Obamacare is. That's what it is. That's why they had to put a $1,000 fine, which Trump got rid of, by the way. That's why they had to put a $1,000 fine on anybody that didn't buy insurance. Because without young, healthy people buying insurance, it only ballooned the cost. The problem is, even with young, healthy people buying insurance, it didn't bring our costs down. It still ballooned. She's selling you Obamacare, which we already have, which caused this problem in the first place. What she's not telling you is it was designed to. Because they want to move you completely to single payer. We just watched yesterday the video of the guy that has lived in Germany for the last 15 years. They take 70 cents of every single dollar he earns. Meaning if he makes $1,000 at his job this week, he will only take home $300. And yes, he gets health care for that. That's a lot more than your health care costs, by the way. He also has social welfare if he loses his job. Again, so do you. But you only lose between 20 and 30%, unless you're way up in the top bracket, or you live in New York or California. But outside of that, you only lose about 20 or 30%. You keep at least 70%, not lose 70% to the government. And the health care that he was getting in Germany was garbage. It's fine if you have a scratch or an infection and you just need a bottle of antibiotics. It's great. But if you have an actual problem, it could be months before you get to see a doctor or a specialist. You could be dead by the time somebody can actually see you about it. We watched the video from the Canadian. Same thing. Nearly 70 cents on every dollar. They're closer to like 60. But that's only because their alternative, their fix for this is just killing people with MAID. We'll get to that in a second. We watched the video of the Canadian whose wife had cancer. And it was going to be something like 30 weeks or something before she could be seen. And the doctors at the hospital were telling his wife that she was fine and just needed to go home. Just giving her pain meds, opiates, and telling her to suck it up, basically. Until she finally got bad enough, he brought her down to a hospital in Seattle, in America, where they saved her life. This happened 3 times. And every time, the alternative that she was offered was medically assisted suicide in Canada. Because the healthcare is insolvent. So what good does it do?
How are you going to pay for it? We
God
are
dang,
already,
that
not only
voice
are
scares the hell out of me. I didn't mean to turn that on. What good is that healthcare going to do you if when you actually need it, it can't provide you anything? See, we could fix a lot of this in America today. We could lower the cost and fix it by taking this minimal healthcare out of the circulation altogether. People like myself, when I have an infection, I don't need to go to the doctor to find out I have an infection. I know I have a goddamn infection. I know I need medication for it, antibiotics for it. I could just go to the pharmacist and say, hey, I've got this infection. What is the correct dosage for my body weight, my age, my sex of this medication for this type of infection? And he can provide it to me. Well, he can't because the government made it so the doctor has to get a sign-off. So that way you have to pay the insurance company for insurance to go see the doctor and participate in the system so that we can lower the cost of medical. But there's no way to lower the cost when you have to keep adding more pieces to the system. This is America. You used to be able to walk into a pharmacy and buy fucking heroin if you wanted to. And yes, I think you should now. Should it be behind the counter so kids can't get it? Obviously. But explain to me how it's more harmful for a fucking heroin addict to go in and buy it from a pharmacy than it is from his local fucking dealer that might shoot him in the face or shoot you in the face for getting in the way of his deal. It's not ideal that people get addicted to drugs. But those drugs are actually useful for medical concerns, and the rest of us aren't allowed to have access to them because somebody might misuse it. Doesn't sound like a free country to me. And look, a lot of people tell me I'm insensitive, and if I had, drugs like fentanyl affect my family, I wouldn't say such things. Well, I have. Still do. Thankfully, not my direct family, meaning my, fiance and kids. But I have 48 aunts and uncles, who knows how many cousins. I have people in my immediate family, or whatever you would call that, I guess. When I think immediate family, I think my kids, my fiance. But beyond that, the very next step, the family I had before I had kids, and a fiance. I know people affected by this. People I care about deeply. On top of that, about 50% of the kids I went to high school with, friends that I made, friends that I still have, former co-host to this show, the closest friend I've ever had, who, thank God, doing good today, and I'm very proud of him for that. But there was a time when he wasn't. There was a time when I didn't think I'd ever get my friend back. But you know what he didn't do? And why I would argue he's clean today? He didn't blame it on everybody else. He knew from the start that it was his choice to do that. And it didn't matter what fucked up things that happened to him when he was younger. The responsibility was on him for making those choices, and therefore, it was within his power to make better choices. Now, I don't want to go off on this road, but my point is, it has affected me. And I know people that have died from it. People that I cared about deeply. And the fact is, whether they get it from a dealer or a fucking pharmacy, I'm not going to change that. But it will change the millions of people that could be helped by these drugs that aren't going to abuse them. Even if it wasn't going to, I truly believe in the principles of a free society. So there's that too. But I wouldn't argue passionately for it if that was the only case. I argue passionately for it because I truly believe that personal responsibility is the answer to everything. Pretty much doesn't matter what the question is. Go to another example. And then we'll get out of here for today. I'm not sure exactly how long we've been going because I got cut off early on. This one's a little more obscure. Well, we had the guy that burned down the warehouse. Hang on one sec. Which one do we want to go with here? I want to avoid that one. Let's go ahead and play this lady.
Really? Anybody else feel like the tone in the US has really fucking shifted in the past week? It was a big week for anti-establishment violence in this country. Let's review. Okay, first we had someone in Indianapolis shot up the house of one of their council members and left a note at the house that said, "No data centers." This is in response to that council member basically ignoring all of the public outcry, saying that they don't want the data center and saying that he's going to push that shit through anyway. Then a few days later, someone threw a Molotov cocktail through the window at...
Okay, let's start with the first one there. Is there a way to send a message to city council members that don't honor the will of the people? First of all, I don't believe her. I'm sure that there were people that showed up at city council complaining about the data center. But I'm sure it was 1/1000th of the people that lived in the city. Second, is there a method? Yeah, you can vote them out. You can vote them out and you can vote somebody in that's going to overturn that. Seems to me that it wasn't necessary to attempt to kill the man. Now, I will admit that there's absolutely a problem with city councils, state governments, all the way up, right? We have problems within our government. A lot of it has to do with these same problems. A lot of it has to do with the individuals. But bribery, of course, big problem. We have had a big issue with China coming in, bribing city council members with millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, to allow Chinese corporations into these small American towns. Why we would ever allow, foreign government-tied corporation. It's one thing to allow a foreign company. Like, let's take, I don't know a good example. Or Toyota. Toyota is a good example. Okay. I was going to take 6 Hour because I couldn't think of a better example, but Toyota is a great example. Toyota is a Japanese company. But Japanese companies are not part of the Japanese government. The Japanese government does not use Japanese companies to further government and military strategic agendas. If they did, I would say we shouldn't allow Toyotas here. But that's not the case. I was going to say the same thing about 6 Hour in Sweden, Switzerland, whatever country 6 Hours from. I think it's Switzerland. That's not true for Chinese companies. Every Chinese company is a vessel for the CCP, whether they want to be or not. they'll just kill their family that's still in China. Why would we allow them to invest here? Who knows? Moving on.
Sam Altman's house. Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI. So these two events together are giving...
Okay. Before we let her continue on that one, I do want to point out, I think Sam Altman's a terrible dude, and I think that he might have fucking murdered that guy. I don't know exactly what the details are. I just know I heard him on a podcast where the dude asked him directly, you know, about this death of an employee of his or something like that he allegedly had some sort of connection to. And I have no idea. This is strictly my opinion. I can tell you his answers to the questions in that podcast were absolutely just weird. They were weird. And they both having to do with that investigation and just having to do with AI in general. I don't trust the guy at all. He does not seem like a straight shooter, and he does not seem like a good person. He seems like a bad person. That's just my opinion. Still, what is the justification for this?
Syrian jihad now. I need to get a t-shirt. Earlier this week, I
also don't understand what the deal is with data centers, why people are so upset about them, but whatever.
A warehouse worker in Ontario, California, deliberately lit that bitch on fire, filmed himself doing it, and said, quote, "If you're not gonna fucking pay us enough to live, then at least pay us enough not to do this."
Not what he said exactly.
That man has been arrested and has
said all you had to do is
apparently
pay us
compared
a living
himself
wage.
to everyone's favorite Italian plumber. Then just last night, another warehouse in College Point, Queens, also caught on fire and burned to the ground, and they are still investigating the cause of the fire. Finally, last night, a deputy was shot and killed while he was serving an eviction on a man in Porterville, California. The tenant was 59 years old. He had been renting his home for 20 years. He had been evicted, and the sheriff's deputies were there to forcibly evict him from the home. And instead of allowing them to make him homeless, he shot and killed one of them and then barricaded himself in his home, emerged hours later in tactical gear shooting, and got run over by a Bearcat and killed. All of the news stories covering this are saying motive was not known. Motive was not known. Bro, the motive was y'all are about to make a 59-year-old man homeless and forcibly drag him and his belongings out of his house that he lived in for 20 fucking years and throw him out on the street. And being homeless in the United States is illegal, basically, because there's nowhere to fucking sleep even, and it's a fucking death sentence. So, like, yeah. That's the motive, y'all. That's the fucking motive. Not being fucking homeless.
Why are there
Rather
so
being
many
dead
homeless
than
people?
being homeless. That's where
If
we're
it's
at in
illegal,
this country.
why are
And like,
there
make
so
no
many
mistake,
homeless people?
these events are all related. They may not be obviously related, but they're all related to.
So, first of all, he didn't own the home. It's not like the government was taking his home for the taxes. Second, he didn't shoot the guy that evicted him. He shot the messenger. A man that was just doing his job to pay his bills. So even if you believe for the slightest second that murder was a reasonable justification for not paying your fucking rent, God knows how you could come to that conclusion. Why would you shoot the sheriff? I don't get it. But there's no logic to it. The logic is, this is my home. It doesn't matter that I don't own it. It doesn't matter that I'm not paying for it. This is my home. You can't take me out of it. I deserve this because I'm alive. Motherfucker, we're all alive. We all have to work to live. Again, take away all of society. All of government. Everything. You have to work to live. If you just sit there, you will die. Being homeless isn't a crime. Anywhere. There are a plethora of options. And even still, there are entire homeless communities. It is not a death sentence. It is a choice. Again, minus the tiny portion, 1%, 2%, they might have a debilitating disease like schizophrenia that allows them to end up on the street. The vast majority choose it.
The collapse of American society. The fact that people are so fucking fed up with AI bullshit coming into our communities and polluting them and making our fucking energy prices higher, and our elected officials just don't give a shit. Fucking asshole billionaires like Sam Altman who are, you know, throwing us all under the bus for their fucking greed. These fucking companies that employ warehouse workers, that all of us, none of us are being fucking paid enough to live. People are fed the fuck up. And then on top of that, people are getting dragged forcibly from their fucking homes. It's like something's gotta fucking give. Obligatory disclaimer: I don't condone violence. Violence bad. But yeah, we're approaching a breaking point. Things are really heating up. The rich are getting richer, and regular everyday Americans cannot afford to live, not making enough to live, and people are getting evicted. Expect more of this to happen. Again, not condoning it, but expect more of this to happen.
None of that is true. Yes, the rich are getting richer. Sure, people get evicted. Even some people that don't deserve it. The poor are getting richer too. We're all getting richer. And we can't afford to live. And there are things that are unfairly high in price. There are companies, there are corporations and CEOs like Sam Altman that are nefarious business owners. Don't use his products, first of all. Support people like Elon Musk, who's trying to counter those bad things with better things, even if you might not agree with him completely. And look, he hasn't always made the best choices. I don't support the way Tesla got off the ground. But there are a plethora of options. Start your own company. Compete. Knock them out of business. Show them that being a good person, no matter how important or how valuable or whatever your company is better. The problem is, these people, they don't even hate these CEOs because they're bad people. They just want their money. They're just envious of what they have. And that's the problem. She'd be perfectly fine with Sam Altman continuing with this company so long as the government takes 50% of his wealth and redistributes it to her and whoever else. It's not the same thing. Anyway. Last example. That one wasn't the greatest, but I know I said there was a part I was going to come back to. I really just don't care to. Okay, here's another example. There's a concerted effort to push cars out, right? They're trying to push high-speed rail. They're trying to push bike lanes. This comes from our enemies. Just to be clear, this is propaganda being pushed to the American people by our enemies. Because they know that the more you can congest cities, the faster they die. Plain and simple. Consider this. A lot of people complain about suburbs and their zoning. For example, you can't have even like a 7-Eleven in a suburb. And I get it, that's annoying. I wouldn't live in a suburb for that reason. Not that type of suburb. I prefer just general small town America where it's pretty mixed. Regardless, there's a reason for it. Even a 7-Eleven has to have at least one semi-truck a day make deliveries. If they sell gas, then it's at least 2. You have to have certain infrastructure for that. You have to have, first of all, roads that can handle semi-trucks. You have to have space. You have to have parking lots to accommodate the businesses. You have to have loading docks. 7-Eleven doesn't necessarily use a loading dock, but anything larger than a 7-Eleven does. There's a lot of infrastructure that has to go with it. And there's good logic behind putting all the stores and shops here and all the houses here. There's great logic to it, in fact. Especially when you start adding in fire codes and parking restrictions and all of that shit. But as far as the bikes, and sorry, that's the point of the high-speed rail, the bikes, all of that, right? The automobile is the ultimate form of individual transportation. It takes you where you want to go, when you want to go, for a price that every American, even the poorest among us, can afford. Obviously, if you're poor, it's a little bit more to afford. You're going to drive a little bit shittier of a car. But even when I made bare minimum wage in a very expensive state of Washington, which wasn't always very expensive, but believe me, it was on the high end for my entire life. But even on minimum wage, I had 3 cars at one point, all of which ran fine, none of which were beat up or gross or anything. One got 45 miles to the gallon. One was a truck. And the other was literally just for fun. And I was able to afford all of them. Plus all the rest of my expenses. Point is, it's the ultimate form of individual transportation. It picks you up at your door. You take it to the door of the place you need to go 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Your driveway is literally connected to every road in North America. Technically North and South America if you ignore the Panama Canal, which I'm sure has a bridge over it, so probably even North and South America. Even to replace that with a bus, which is far more advantageous than a train, because it still can go anywhere a road is. It's not going to pick you up at your house. It's not going to be ready to go when you want to go. Probably not going to run at night because it's not feasible. The car is the ultimate form of individual transportation. And you don't have to share it with anybody. And a lot of people, well, I can't do any work in the car, I can do it on the train. Yeah, you might get stabbed on the train too. And you could do work in the car, you just need to carpool or hire someone to drive you. Which is actually surprisingly affordable. But, I digress, and self-driving cars are going to pretty much eliminate that problem, as are they going to eliminate the problem of traffic. And I get, there are some very limited places, like Seattle, Washington, where the downtown area can't really expand unless we, like, get rid of every other building or something. And that's because there's water all the way surrounding one side. So there's only so far you can go one way. And you can go this way, but because that was built out over time, it gets more and more spread out, but the close part's very dense. Still, removing lanes to put in bike lanes for 1% of the population isn't helping the problem, it's only making it worse. We could dig underground. In fact, they did. They took the viaduct down, they built a tunnel. They could do that for the surface streets too. The point is, you get rid of the roads, you also get rid of the ability to bring in freight, to sustain those businesses. Do you have any idea how many commercial vehicles need to come into a downtown area on a day-to-day basis? It's a lot. Regardless, there's still a segment of the population that doesn't realize this is propaganda and that thinks this is somehow ideal. Take a look at this segment of the population in this place. This is Europe. Now keep in mind, still, compare that to an average road of traffic. I guarantee there's a road a block over from this where there are thousands of people every 20 minutes that pass. There's probably 1,000 people every 20 minutes that pass by on that road. This won't see 1,000 people all day. And here's what I can tell you about these people. This is, by the way, what the comment was. If you invite more cars, you get more cars. If you make more streets better for cars, you get more traffic. If you invite people to walk more and use public spaces more, you get more life in the city. You get what you invite. Yeah. What is this city inviting? It's inviting dependence with free time. I guarantee every single person in this photo either lives off the government, welfare, or somebody else, probably their parents. Because the average person headed to work, headed to school, can't take a bike. They got shit to carry. They got places to go that are farther than 2 blocks. They can't be soaking wet when they get there because it's raining. You ever tried to ride a bike in a suit? Well, but if we had bikes and a high-speed rail. You still would be sitting around waiting. You still could get stabbed on your commute. And it's still going to cost more money. This comes from this mindset. I like to bike, so everybody should bike. Even though 99.9% of people choose a car because it is unquestionably the ultimate form of transportation, individual transportation. It's why families have more than one car, one for each person that drives. Extremely common in the US because we can afford it. And because it's incredibly useful to be able to go where you need to go, no matter how far away it is, when you need to go there. Yeah, you can live based on the schedule of the local bus or train, but it fucking sucks. And hopefully whatever you need to bring with you or bring home, you can carry. Because good luck trying to bring a trailer onto the bus or the train. To wrap this up, if we don't start changing our mindset, if we don't start understanding how we became the country we are, what made us successful in the first place? What made us different in the first place? Why individualism and the core principles of this nation are important? We are going to lose them. Just like the old sayings, you lose a right that you don't use and all of those things, right? There's many different variants of the same saying. If you don't know why you have freedom, You're not going to do anything to maintain it, to keep it. In fact, as we've seen, many will be willing to give it up because they don't see how it's benefiting them. Sure, I'll give up my freedom if you want to give me $500 a month. You literally couldn't pay me enough. Because I understand what I'm granted by that freedom. That freedom to choose. That freedom to move out of the class that I was born into. Or that I fell into. The freedom to move about this country wherever I want to. The freedom to live whatever lifestyle I want to without being forced. If you don't know the answer to a lot of these things, a good place to start is a book like this. You can buy this book right now. I got this in the airport in Florida. The U.S. Constitution and Other Key American Writings. Now, it's not quite as good. I've showed the other book before. I have an older version of this same book that is the Constitution and Other Various Writings. It's not quite as good as that one. They include some things in here that I wouldn't have bothered to include, speeches from Obama and stuff. And no, it's not just because he's Democrat. It's because everything Obama stood for was the antithesis of what the founder stood for. Aside from that, I think the history from the founding to, what is it called? Not recreation, but the end of the Civil War, that's the primary focus. The fundamental transformation starts when progressives first come about at the turn of the 20th century. Anyway, start with a book like that. Read the documents. Read the writings of the founders. Every president has a library and a website that contain all of their personal writings. Most of this stuff, none of it was ever copyrighted, so you can download it online if you can't afford to buy, books that compile it or whatever. In fact, that's one of the projects I've been working on, is I'm trying to compile all these documents so that I can just offer a place to download all of it all at once. You can print it or read it on your tablet or whatever, right? Everything that's not copyrighted, so it won't have to cost anything. But I think this book was $10, and it covers the basics. It's a good place to start. If you want specific documents, I would start with the Declaration. I would start with the Declaration and the rough draft of the Declaration. The Constitution, of course. And the Federalist Papers. Because the Federalist Papers fill in a lot of the blanks that leftists and progressives today claim aren't filled in. They like to read a bunch of ambiguity into things that there never was any ambiguity on. The Second Amendment is a perfect example, where they claim that it's somehow a right for the states and not an individual right, despite the fact it literally says the right of the individual in it to keep and bear arms. Well, the founders clarified exactly what they meant in documents like the Federalist Papers, in their various speeches and writings. There was no ambiguity. And the same is true for many other important questions, like the 14th Amendment. We have to rediscover what an American is if we have any hope of continuing this country, because it is only the fact that the founders created the incredibly robust country that they created that we still are as much America as we are. Because for 100 years, There have been various attempts by roughly the same group of people. It's changed a little bit through the years, but roughly it's the same group of people to fundamentally transform this nation. And the key, most effective way that they have done that, provably, is in preventing knowledge from getting to our youth. Preventing the history from getting into the youth. How do you know what you're protecting if you don't know what it is? How do you know what to protect if you don't know what it is? How do you know how to protect it if you don't know what it is? If you never learned it? If you don't understand it? So anyway, we'll talk about this more hopefully tomorrow when Austin's back with us, if he's able to join us tomorrow, and that way I have a little more back and forth with somebody. But don't forget to like, follow, share the show, all that good stuff. x.com/JBU_show. Rumble.com/user/just between us. You can check out Austin MillerTalk_pod on X or MillerTalk.substack.com. We appreciate you guys being here. Please like, share, follow, all that stuff. That drastically helps us and the algorithms, and we greatly appreciate it. With that, my name is Chris, and this has been the JBU Show.
Bye. Wait, I want to be a little bit louder.
Yeah.
This is only between us.
This is just between us.
This is between us.
Perfect.